Again, it's the 10th of March, Mario Day 2025. And if you've been watching what's been happening in northern Israel, where I am, uh, not very far from here, there's been Israeli activity on the border with Syria since the fall of the Assad regime. I made a couple of videos about this already, and spoken about what Israel is doing on the border with Syria and inside of Syria to keep the border of Israel secure, especially in the face of the new regime that is in charge of Syria. The new regime in charge of Syria, also known by its acronym HTS, is basically a derivative of Al Qaeda and the Islamic State. And its leader used to be in charge of the Al Qaeda or Islamic State group in Syria until he broke from them to create his own group, HTS, and then pretended to swear off the kind of acts of barbarity that they used to do openly. And now they still do them openly, even though they just lie through their teeth and say that they don't. And during the first days after the overthrow of Assad, there was a lot of hope and optimism that, hey, maybe these guys really are different now. And I said, you got to be careful. And, sure, let's be hopeful, but realistic, and realize that probably within hours or days, they're going to show their true face, and they're going to expose themselves for who they really are, which is a bunch of Islamist extremists. And literally within hours or days of taking over Syria, and or the majority of Syria, and saying that they were not going to spill the blood of people who used to be part of the Assad regime, and that they wanted to have peace in Syria, and they wanted all minorities to feel safe and secure there. And they even said that they wanted to have potentially peace with Israel. They started attacking minorities in Syria. And now it has gotten to the point, been there for a few months already, a couple of months, and it's already at the point where they are, in fact, just slaughtering people left and right that are minorities in Syria, right? And they've already gone after the Alawites, who were part of the regime of the Assad regime. Right? Alawites are they're not traditional Sunni or Shiite Muslims. They're a different kind of a cult within that religion. But anyway, they're no longer in power, and they're a minority there, and they are in fact being persecuted by these Islamic extremist terrorists of the HTS. And we've seen, I think, at least 1,000 of them have been counted dead in the last couple of days in the most horrific ways. Hello, I see you, but I don't read that language. And what's going on in Syria is absolutely brutal, chaotic, bordering on, it is a form of genocide, right? You have the HTS terrorists who are literally targeting Alawites because they're Alawites and they want to eliminate them. That is genocide, right? They're not fighting against the Alawites as an armed force like they used to be in order to defeat them in battle. No, they already did that. So now they're just going after them because they're Alawites. That is ethnic cleansing. That is genocide, right? And where's the useful idiots on the lunatic left saying anything about that? Nope, not a word. In fact, European ministers of different countries have already visited Syria and have already shaken hands with the so-called interim president, al-Julani. Now he goes by al-Shabaab or al-Shahab or whatever his name is. Al-Julani is nom de guerre, or nom de guerre as we say in French, literally. And he's promised them he's going to be different, and he wears a suit and tie, or he wears, not combat fatigues for his meetings with them, to pretend like he's some kind of president of a country legitimately in office. He's not legitimately in office. That doesn't mean Assad was any better. I would also say Assad was also not legitimately elected. He was a dictator. Okay? So one dictatorship after another, as usual, in a Muslim country. Why anyone is surprised by that, I don't know, because the history of Muslim countries is there are no Muslim democracies. No real ones anyway. Well, you could say Turkey was for a while, but again, Erdogan is in power. He's not running a democracy, and you can argue that till the cows come home and tell me, oh, he's just a bit authoritarian. No, he's a lot more than a bit authoritarian, in my opinion. Turkey has become a dictatorship again, without a question, even though they're a NATO ally, literally a member of NATO. The only reason they're still a member of NATO is because the U.S. houses nuclear weapons there, right, as a front line against Russia since a very long time. And it's extremely difficult to move those things out of there. So as a result, Turkey gets to remain a key player in matters of security around the Middle East. If not, their armed forces would not be anywhere near as substantial and powerful as they are. They wouldn't have the U.S. Air Force base there. They wouldn't have all the U.S. forces and NATO resources at their disposal. But they do. And they're causing a lot of the problems. In fact, it's because of Turkey that HTS managed to take over Syria, which, again, I'm no fan of the Assad regime. I'm glad they're gone, but let's not pretend that the forces that they've taken over are really much better or even any better at all. In fact, arguably, they're just as bad, if not maybe even worse. Okay? Now, at the moment, you can say, well, at least they're not letting Hezbollah attack Israel with rockets and other things from the Syrian side of the Golan, like the Assad regime allowed. But at the same time, they have been attacking the Druze population increasingly. And they are basically, it looks like they're preparing to do a major battle against them. So it is entirely possible that we will see significant confrontations in southern Syria between the Druze and the HTS forces. It may be that Israel needs to be even more involved in protecting the Druze, in supplying them with arms and other resources to keep them secure from the insane genocidal maniacs who are now in charge of Syria. Where am I from? I'm American, but I'm American and other things, but I am in Israel. At the moment, did I serve with John Rambo? That's very funny. Why? Was I in the movie Rambo? No, I wasn't in the movie Rambo. Anyway, Israel is doing what it can to remain secure against these HTS flat balloons. And meanwhile, the rest of the world is once again falling for BS. They're buying the lie that these people running Syria now are somehow good people because their leader wears a suit and he said that he's not a terrorist. Well, saying you're not a terrorist doesn't make you not a terrorist, especially when your past is full of terrorist activity. So I view that as sort of hollow, empty words. And until we see otherwise, and especially now, considering their current activity, slaughtering innocent civilians across Syria, specifically targeting minorities, like the Alawites and Druze, until we see them not do that and actually restore peace and security across Syria, as far as I'm concerned, they've already proven themselves to be terrorists and genocidal maniacs. And Israel has made the correct decision, whether you like it or not, of preventing these crackpots from approaching the Israeli border when they took over the abandoned posts of the former Syrian army that were on the Golan Heights. Israel, by taking over the tallest peak in the Golan Heights, has secured an incredibly important vantage point, which I hope it will never leave, frankly, because why should it leave it? The Syrian army literally abandoned it. There was a power vacuum, and Israel won. Israel took over an abandoned piece of land, and it's a piece of land that is very small, but that gives Israel a significant strategic position to be able to observe the entire region much better than it could before, because now it literally has the highest vantage point in the entire Golan Heights, so it can see all the way into a lot of Syria and what's going on there. And basically, Israel has taken over that area and is operating inside of South Syria in areas where the Druze are. They're not pretending that they're not there. They are there. The Israeli Minister of Defense was, in fact, in southern Syria just yesterday or the day before, visiting troops. They are there. And the Druze are certainly not complaining about it because they understand the need for Israeli presence for their own protection, which they seek, by the way. They want Israeli protection. So this isn't some kind of occupation against the will of the people. The people living there want Israeli forces there. They want their help. They want their supplies. They want their arms. They want their training to be able to defend themselves against the HTS when the HTS inevitably will try to attack them even more than they already have attacked the ones who live in and around Damascus. And so that's the situation. It's quite complex, but Israel is honestly fighting a war on 7 fronts, and that is one of the most dangerous fronts that there is at the moment, because the HTS in Syria are a relatively formidable force. And even though Israel did manage to destroy the overwhelming majority of the significant assets that Syria held during the Assad regime in the hours and days following the downfall of Bashar Assad, there are still a lot of weapons there. There are still a lot of resources there that the HTS has taken over that they could easily use and target Israel with. So it makes a lot of sense for Israel to be there. Anyway, that'll do it for now. I hope you're all well. Peace.